10 years ago, I had this list in my head. I never dreamt that I'd get to the end of that list. So I've decided to end my River Monsters journey.
Fans were left speechless when River Monsters vanished from TV with no clear answer. The show gripped the world, pulling millions into dark waters, strange creatures, and nail-biting encounters. After 9 and 10 seasons, it just ended, and viewers were desperate to know why. What went on behind the cameras was a story almost nobody expected. How could a top-rated series, hosted by one of the most respected voices in wildlife shows, simply disappear? Today we dive into the hidden truth behind River Monsters, a tale that has been quietly ignored for years and could change how you remember the series forever. He found every monster there was. The end of River Monsters did not come from fading interest. It stunned viewers who expected endless seasons and left many shocked by the sudden finality. It did not collapse from drama or messy network fights. The reason was strange and oddly satisfying. Jeremy Wade, the man who turned monster hunting into a worldwide obsession, did the impossible and caught almost everything on his list. Most TV shows stretch themselves thin to survive, but River Monsters stopped at the peak. It did not keep going because it had to. It closed because it finished its mission. And Wade did more than present show. He met a lifelong challenge that would have broken many long before Season 1 even aired. From the start, River Monsters stood apart. This was not just a fishing show. It was an expedition series, a mystery hunt, and a wildlife thriller rolled together. Behind every dramatic cast of a line, there was a larger aim. Wade kept a mental list of legendary freshwater beasts that lived in folklore, terrified river towns, and puzzled scientists. These were creatures of shadow, giant catfish blamed for drowning people, arapimas as huge as small cars, and the feared Goliath tigerfish with needle-like teeth. What began as a hopeful plan to chase these monsters one by one quickly turned into something far more serious. Season after season, Wade checked off another name on that list. Some took months, others took years or decades. The Goliath tigerfish became his white whale. He chased it for over 20 years, and when it finally came in Season 2, it was more than a catch. It became a signature episode that people still talk about and share today. That moment defined his career and proved his obsession true. As the series continued, viewers followed Wade across continents, through the Congo, deep into the Amazon, the Himalayan foothills, and the soggy marshes of Southeast Asia. As the show grew more popular, Wade grew bolder. He refused easy catches or second-hand tales. Every fish had to hold mystery, fear, and real, ecological meaning. The stakes were high and the stories were real. Under all the on-screen thrill, there was a quiet truth: the list was shrinking. Each new season left fewer monsters that matched the original idea of the series. When the final season aired in 2017, the fact was clear both to Wade and the network. Producers had to face the reality that the show had reached the ends of its original promise. Animal Planet did not cancel River Monsters in the usual way. They celebrated it instead. Executives praised Wade's rare skill to captivate an audience and turn science into edge-of-the-seat drama. But they also admitted the basic fact: River Monsters was built to find legends, and the legends were running out. Wade made his view plain in a press release. 10 years ago, I had a list in my head, which seemed impossibly ambitious at the time, but everything has now been ticked off, and then some. That admission made the ending almost heroic. Most shows beg for one more season, but Wade walked away because there was nothing left to prove. He had faced the fiercest freshwater predators in history, brought them into the light, and told their stories with respect and wonder. Fans felt torn. They wanted more, yet they understood. Wade had done something rare. He did not get canceled, he won. But the triumph hid a darker side of the story behind the cameras. Fans thought that was the end, but then learned what Wade had endured to make the series possible. The harsh reality behind the cameras. River Monsters rarely showed how much Wade gave up to make each episode. Viewers watched the finished scenes, the murky rivers, the dramatic, catch the mix of folklore and science, but that neat package often covered a brutal and relentless process. Wade was not only fighting shy fish, he was battling some of the harshest environments on Earth, and the marks he carried were not always on his skin. He filmed in places few would dare to go. These were not tourist spots or normal wildlife hubs. They were remote jungles, unnamed riverbanks, and regions with unstable safety, where outsiders rarely came and conditions were merciless. To reach them, Wade sometimes traveled for days on foot, or in fragile dugout canoes, hauling camera gear, fishing tools, and survival supplies through thick plants and suffocating heat. There were no trailers, no comforts, no shortcuts. The show built tension, but it did not always show the danger fully. Wade caught malaria more than once while filming. He told of collapsing from exhaustion after long hours under a burning sun. Insect bites swelled like tennis balls, tropical infections that could have been fatal, in nights sleeping under nets, while wild noises echoed all around. The settings were beautiful and brutal at once. Often there was no backup nearby. In many shoots, Wade and his team had to work without quick medical help. One slip on wet rocks, a wrong insect bite, or a run-in with a territorial crocodile could have been fatal. Wade later admitted there were times he seriously asked himself if the show was worth the risk. Each time his drive to document unknown species pushed him onward. He felt pulled between duty to science and the deep personal risks involved. The toll was not only physical. The psychological strain built up over time. Weeks alone in the field, constant shifts between cultures, languages, dangers, and demands wore on him more than he let on. Wade had to juggle being a host, a biologist, an explorer, and the leader of a small crew, while making sure the footage met the series' high bar. That pressure, mixed with exhaustion, left deep marks. Wade rarely turned the lens on himself while filming. He kept the focus on the fish, the people, and the myths. That restraint helped make River Monsters powerful. But after the show finished, Wade slowly began to speak more about what he had been through. In interviews and public appearances, he described how hard those years were, how the nonstop travel, exposure, and lack of rest harmed his health. He spoke about long-term effects and the ways his body and mind had to heal after years on the road. Fans finally saw just how much he had quietly suffered over nearly 10 years of filming. It hit viewers like a cold splash of river water to the face, and it changed how people remembered the show. Looking back, River Monsters was never just a TV job for Jeremy Wade. It was a hard, hands-on mission that tested every part of him and pushed him past limits few could imagine. From the outside, the series looked thrilling and wild, and it was exciting to watch. But each dramatic catch followed another week of danger, struggle, and sheer endurance in places most people will never see. Wade came back from far worse than scraped knees and sunburn. He dealt with disease, extreme fatigue, and the steady grind of travel that chips away at even the toughest person. Even so, that kind of suffering was not the real reason the series ended. He had grit enough to continue, but a different truth arrived that would change the entire plan. Danger was only part of the story, and it was not the final reason the show stopped. The next revelation went deeper, and it surprised many who assumed the cameras had simply taken too much. The monster list was real, and it was complete. At first, it seemed the show could run forever with so many rivers, so many species, and endless local tales to pull from. But Wade had a clear mission from the very start, and he stuck to it with stubborn purpose. He kept a private list of the most mysterious, dangerous, and legendary freshwater creatures global folklore dared to whisper about. These were not just rare animals, they were fish wrapped in fear and myth, blamed for killings or long ignored by science. Each animal had to bring real mystery, real threat, and a story that mattered beyond the catch. That list became the backbone of the series, and over 9 seasons Wade hunted every name until the list was finished. He chased arapaima in the Amazon and the Goliath tigerfish in the Congo and giant catfish that locals treated like monsters. Each season removed more names from that mental catalog, and in time, there were no more prime candidates left. Quietly, and finally the quest ended with no big loose threads left, and that truth surprised many fans. Wade refused to compromise the series by making episodes with weak tales or repeated stunts. He knew audiences notice when material is recycled, and he would not let the mystery fade into cheap television. Instead, he chose to end on a high note and turn the final season into a real send-off. The last episodes returned to unforgettable places and wrapped up long-running threads with care and respect. He chased the last rumors and the most stubborn leads, including a baffling sea monster in remote waters and reef creatures blamed for deadly encounters in Indonesia. Those episodes were not leftovers, but the closing chapters of a long hunt, and they carried weight. When the final fish were landed, the show's true meaning changed from animals to legacy. River monsters had grown into a symbol of adventure, science, and wonder, and Wade wanted that symbol kept pure. He knew continuing without the original aim would blur the message and make the series shallow. So he protected the show by letting it end while it still shone bright. After the cameras stopped, many expected a reboot or a new host to step in, but Wade surprised them by saying no. He did not hand the reins to someone else, and he did not accept offers to restart the name in another form. Why Wade refused a reboot or spin-off? In today's market, endings are rarely final, and successful shows are often reborn in many forms. Networks offered ideas and deals because River Monsters still carried a lot of value and had loyal fans around the world. Executives suggested a fresh host a series focused on ocean predators, or a legacy show where Wade would train a successor. On paper, those ideas sounded sensible, but to Jeremy Wade, they felt wrong because the heart of the show would be lost. He could see a version that chased ratings with flashy stunts and forced drama, and he refused to be part of that. For him, the series always balanced mystery, emotion, and truth, so any version that traded that balance for hype would break the original promise. His refusal was not about ego, it was about principle and the fear of selling out the concept. Across the run, he fought to keep tone, serious science correct, and the message rooted in respect for the creatures and the people who lived beside the rivers. River Monsters stood on conservation, education, and true exploration, and turning it into a glossy reality template would have cheapened all that care and effort. Wade chose to keep the series intact, rather than let it be reshaped into something unrecognizable. There is real strength in knowing when to stop, and Wade used that strength with a clear mind and steady purpose. Instead of chasing deals or clinging to fame, he stepped back and let the show stand on its own merits. He wanted the final season to feel final, with no loose ends, no handoffs, and no cliffhanger, only honest closure. That decision made the end feel deliberate and respectful, and it protected the work he had poured himself into. Some viewers liken that choice to other bold television goodbyes, where creators made sure the story could not be picked up or changed easily. Wade did not need a spectacle to prove his point, yet his choice held the same kind of courage and conviction. The show had been deeply personal, with each episode reflecting his voice, his values, and his vision. Letting someone else continue without him would have been like allowing a stranger to rewrite a lifelong work, and he refused to hand over that trust. Fans reacted with a mix of awe and sadness when they realized Wade had chosen to stop on his own terms. Many felt relieved because the series ended with dignity and not on a forced cliffhanger. Inside the production, Wade and the team held long talks about what to include and what to leave alone. They debated episodes and weighed the value of final hunts, as if closing a book chapter by chapter. Those final choices were deliberate and careful, and they showed the respect Wade had for the work he had built. He wanted every last episode to matter and to add to the story, not take away from it. The decision to refuse a reboot also came after honest conversations with producers about the risk of watering down the show. Wade worried a new version might turn serious memoir-style hunts into sensational clips, and that worried him deeply. He believed the audience deserved better, and that the creatures and the people in those episodes deserved proper treatment and respect. Protecting that trust mattered more to him than extra contracts or renewed fame. Some viewers did feel disappointed and asked for one more season, but most came to see the wisdom in finishing deliberately. Over time, the farewell has felt less like an ending and more like a final chapter that honors the whole book. And when Wade speaks now, he often returns to that idea of completion and care, and he stands by the choice he made. Fans felt a mix of disappointment and respect when River Monsters did not return in a new form. In a media era where shows are reused and remade again and again, Jeremy Wade made a rare and quiet choice that stood out to many viewers. Rather than accept endless reruns or a new version that would change what the show meant, he chose to protect the original heart of the series. This choice was a refusal to compromise on purpose and truth. He did not want to turn the show into a never-ending product that wore out its meaning. He wanted the series to remain about going deeper into stories rather than simply lasting longer on screens. Wade did not only protect a program, he preserved a legacy. That legacy was built on curiosity, discipline, and courage shown across nearly a decade of work. He spent years telling stories few others could tell, and he brought unknown creatures into public view with real awe. He refused to trade that legacy for more airtime or another paycheck. For Wade, the work mattered more than the money or the applause, and that honesty won respect. Many fans felt proud of the choice, even if they wanted the show to continue a little longer. Soon after the show ended, Wade began to speak more openly about his experience. He had kept a low profile for years, but then he started to share what the job had been like privately and publicly. His words surprised many listeners because they were raw, thoughtful, and quietly revealing. Jeremy Wade finally broke his silence, and he did it without flashy moves or big stunts. He did not launch a large farewell tour or flood the media with sensational statements. Instead, he chose a few careful interviews where he explained the reasons in his own calm voice. Fans have been guessing about why River Monsters stopped. Some thought it was exhaustion, others thought it was ratings or network drama. But Wade gave a far simpler explanation. He had completed his mission, and the stories that defined the show were no longer out there to find. He said that some shows can last forever, but others must end when their purpose is done. He insisted the show had been built to hunt and demystify freshwater legends that had frightened people and baffled scientists. By the 9th season, those mysteries had largely been solved, and the list of true legends had shrunk dramatically. That did not come from disappointment. It came from a clear sense of completion. Wade showed pride in the work, and he showed respect for the audience by refusing to fake new threats to keep cameras rolling. He valued truth over spectacle, and that choice shaped his decision to end the run while the show still had power. The sense of duty ran deep. Wade felt responsibility to viewers, to the animals, and to the promise of the show itself. Continuing without real stories would have felt like a betrayal of that promise and of the trust he had built with his audience. But ending River Monsters did not mean Wade stopped exploring the unknown. Instead, he shifted focus toward the places and systems that supported the creatures he had once hunted. His curiosity moved from single species to the bigger ecological picture that determines how those animals live and survive. The new work came with a new urgency and a different tone. Mighty Rivers arrived as a project that asked tougher questions about human impact and environmental decline. Wade turned his attention to mighty waterways like the Amazon and others, and he started to investigate what was damaging them and how people might fix the harm. The series looked at rivers that once teemed with life and now showed disturbing signs of loss. Wade used his deep experience from years on the water to notice things many would miss and to tell the story from a place of care and knowledge. His reporting mixed field observation with interviews and local voices so viewers could understand what the rivers meant to people and to wildlife. Then Mysteries of the Deep expanded his canvas even more. He moved from rivers to oceans and to submerged mysteries like sunken towns, underwater ruins, and strange sightings at sea. He kept his method of cautious skepticism and deep research, so the story stayed credible and meaningful. Across projects, Wade refused to chase flashy spectacle or manufacture drama. He did not exaggerate or sensationalize. Instead, he investigated and let the facts speak for themselves. That steady method made even the wildest tales feel measured and thoughtful to many viewers. These projects proved Wade was not tied to a single show and that he could evolve his storytelling. He showed he was driven by a cause, not by chasing personal fame or endless airtime. His refusal to turn the original series into an endless franchise proved his commitment to integrity and to the animals he covered. Over time, his conservation work grew more visible. He began partnering with environmental groups, speaking at public events, and writing to raise awareness about freshwater decline. Wade used his platform to educate and to protect, and that choice broadened his impact beyond television. Wade's later efforts were not a break from River Monsters, but a natural continuation of its main message. The show had always been about respect for nature mystery and the fragile line between human progress and ecosystem survival. His later work made that underlying mission clearer and more urgent for many viewers. Under the excitement of the show lay a simple purpose that got stronger with time. Jeremy Wade did more than reel in big fish. He worked to dismantle fear and to bring understanding to creatures that were often misunderstood. He taught viewers to ask two basic questions about every legend: what is this creature, and why does it frighten people so much? Those questions turned the series into a form of public education. Time and again, Wade found feared animals were often not killers, but survivors trying to live in difficult conditions. As viewers learned the truth, fear often turned into interest, and then care for the animals and their places. Each show also quietly pushed a message of conservation. By focusing on individual species, Wade turned an abstract crisis about environmental decline into stories that people could feel and remember. He did not preach. Instead, he told real human and animal stories, and that made people listen and sometimes change their minds. River Monsters changed many minds and gave viewers a new way to see the natural world. It reminded them that beneath the myths there are often truths worth finding, and that understanding comes from careful study, not from fear-mongering. Wade took fear, looked it in the eye, and taught millions to meet it with curiosity and respect. The legacy of River Monsters reached beyond flashy moments and big catches. It was about bringing attention to the fragile and giving voice to animals that had been ignored or blamed unfairly. That kind of legacy cannot be easily replaced by cheap reboots or by shows that only want to chase ratings. The impact did not end when the cameras did. The change in public view and the awareness the show created kept working even after the final season ended. That ongoing effect is part of why the series still matters to many people today. So did Wade end the show at the right time? Or do some viewers wish the hunt had continued? Many fans felt lucky to have had the run they did, and they understood why he chose to stop. Others still longed for more episodes to watch and more stories to follow. Many viewers said they felt proud that Wade would not let the show become a hollow brand driven only by profit and cheap thrills. He had built trust with audiences by being honest and careful, and that trust mattered more to him than more episodes. Some fans wrote letters while others posted long responses online describing what the show had meant to them and why they supported the decision. Critics also noticed that the show ended cleanly, and that ending with care made the series stronger in memory than a forced continuation would have done. Producers inside the industry quietly praised the decision as rare and brave, because few creators walk away from success on their own terms. Wade's choice to step back made a clear statement about art and responsibility, and it changed how other makers saw a long-running series. People who worked on the show remembered the careful debates about what to film and what to leave out, and they respected the way the team closed the book. Those final production meetings were not easy, but they showed the depth of care behind each decision and the seriousness of the team's work. Fans who had followed Wade from the first season felt that every episode had mattered, and that the final season honored that history. The ending turned into a moment of closure that many viewers found comforting rather than frustrating. Wade's on-camera work inspired a new generation of nature presenters who wanted to blend science with storytelling and who admired his steady voice. Young biologists and filmmakers often say the show pushed them to learn more about rivers and to take action in their own communities. Teachers began using clips and episodes to help students understand ecosystems and to spark curiosity about local waterways. Classroom conversations started around species that had once been the stuff of scary stories and turned into lessons on balance and care. Local groups reported that episodes raised awareness and sometimes inspired small conservation projects in river towns after airing. Viewers wrote about visiting rivers they saw on the show and working with neighbors to clean banks or plant trees to protect habitats. Small actions often followed small moments of learning, and that ripple effect is part of the show's long reach. The style of River Monsters also influenced other shows that wanted to be thoughtful about ethics and about how to tell a true story without harm. Many documentarians learned that respectful reporting and careful research can create strong emotional responses without drama for drama's sake. Wade's quiet tone taught others how careful voice and measured curiosity can make a controversial subject feel honest and real. At conferences and panels, Wade explained how he balanced respect for local culture with the need to ask tough questions about conservation. He emphasized listening to local people and valuing their knowledge, while also bringing scientific tools to the investigation. This approach helped viewers see that conservation was not only about science, but also about local lives and traditions. Wade's interviews often gave space to local voices, and that method helped the show avoid sweeping judgments and instead showed complex realities. That balance between empathy and evidence became a model for many who watched and learned how to do responsible fieldwork. Over the years, Wade's public talks connected him with activist scientists and educators who used the series as a starting point for deeper work. Over time, people came to see the ending as a sign of strength and not a failure to continue. The conversation around river monsters continues because its lessons still matter in a changing world. If you want to share your view, drop a comment and tell what you think about the decision.